Hello, I'm Kathy Bissell. Welcome to the Golf Show 2.0. Today, we're going to talk with an interesting serial entrepreneur. And I don't mean breakfast cereal. Gary, would you like to introduce?
You made my heart stop when you said cereal, because the next word after cereal is often something else. But we won't go into that. We're here
Lucky
with Rob
Charms.
Laughlin, Madison, Wisconsin. He was in on the ground floor on Softspikes, on LaserLink, one of the early rangefinders. He's in Big Cup, which may or may not have been a huge success. He's got a new thing called Ad Flag. He knows everything there is to know about the golf business. Rob, thanks for being here. Tell us the number one thing on your mind about what's wrong with the golf business today.
Well, you catch me a little flat-footed there. Let me think. I think there's an awful lot of good things about golf right now. 10 years ago.
Let's go with that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think, everybody still is amazed at the outstanding performance we had during COVID. And it continues on. I talked to somebody yesterday who has 50,000, the most rounds of golf they played at their facilities in 30 years. And this is 2 years after the pandemic. So I think we're lucky people. I look at all these crazy things about all the different technologies, whether it's Topgolf or that simulator kind of stuff, or the Tiger League that's coming up, the Golf League. And I guess they're all golf, and I guess they're all good for golf.
Didn't
you agree, Gary?
Didn't you think the pandemic was going to finish golf off instead?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have a partner in one of my businesses that we do GPS, cart-mounted GPS units, give you the yardages. You can do a little communicating with them, order a hot dog, all that kind of stuff. And he said at the beginning of the pandemic, he said, we're going to get wiped out because if you can't play golf, you can't charge them so much a month for this service, and then we'll all go bankrupt. And I said, oh, okay. So then 6 months later, he calls me and says, we have just finished the best year we've ever had in 30 years in business, and nobody can explain it.
It's a UV rays can explain it. I live in Florida, and we were open the whole time, and everybody here continued. Well, not everyone. There were some businesses that weren't open, but a lot of them were, and most people continued to do well. And I agree with you about the increased rounds. I know a gentleman that he and his wife own a golf course a little bit farther south than I am in Florida, and they went from having rounds in the mid-30s to rounds in the mid-50s. I mean, that's just unbelievable. And people courses again.
The working from home certainly did fill up the tee sheets.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, with that word "working" in quote marks.
Well, you can do that work at night, but you can't play golf at night, except for
you can on a simulator.
Yeah.
Well, Rob, you were there in the middle of all this. At one point, it was the big question was soft spikes versus metal spikes. Soft spikes and plastic non-metal spikes won that war. Now it's plastic spikes versus spikeless shoes. Where does that stand? And are you surprised it went that direction?
Well, the whole thing with soft spikes surprised me. It's been 30 years, and that surprises me since we stood at the PGA show and introduced the product with no chance at all. And I remember clearly golf pros walking up to us. We had like almost like a card table about 6 feet long. And my partner and I are standing there with this handful of these plastic cleats. And pro after pro comes up and says, "You're kidding, right? You guys aren't serious." So we said, "No, we're doing great. We've already got the business card of some really important people in the golf business." So we thought we were on our way.
Well, it was a game changer for superintendents and really for players because, all right, you have some ancillary spike marks or prints, but you don't have. It was a 2,000% improvement over spike marks from metal spikes. It was a no contest.
Well, I don't think we will ever get all the credit. Nobody feels sorry for us, and it financially worked out to be a very good deal. But the over far-reaching influence of removing those metal spikes. I remember at PGA West at the stadium course. If you walk down from that beautiful pro shop and restaurant, there's a concrete set of stairs, and everybody steps in the same spot. And they would literally wear out once a year a concrete step. And so those kind of things, bar stools, carpeting, marble floors, all of those kind of things were very significant cost saving to golf. So not to mention the comfort and all the other stuff. So
not to mention the carpeting and the way in the locker room.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that was a lucky deal. That was no stroke of genius, but what it did do was get me started on things that are good for golf. And so now some of them have not worked out so great, but some of the others have. The LaserLink golf that you mentioned, that was a battle that I thought, I told my partners I think we could get the rule changed about electronic measuring devices in a year, maybe 2 years, and it took 10 years. but that one worked out.
Why do you think the resistance was so strong against that when there was really no downside to using these?
Well, golf is a kind of an enigma, and the powers to be in golf, they don't know why they're against certain things, but they're against them. And they honestly don't. And I don't mean that as totally negative, but whether it was Peter Dawson or David Rickman or Fay or any of the USGA guys, their visceral reaction is against it. Not here, can't do that. No, we've never done that before. And they really didn't stop and think about it. As it related to the laser rangefinders, they eliminated, or they were no different except faster than the sprinkler heads with the yardages on them. And so they couldn't make a good argument that this is an advantage or something that, that wouldn't be fair to put into golf. But they held us at bay for 10 years, which is terrible. But
well, Peter Dawson was a pretty strict guy at the R&A. I heard a story that I'm not sure where he was playing. John Brendel, former tour official, was playing golf, and he was putting his clubs back in the trunk, and John had a long putter, and this is before they got banned, and Peter Dawson was in the parking lot at whatever course it was. Might have been the old course, I don't know. Peter looks at that putter and tells John, "Why does every bad idea come from America?"
I remember that, Gary, because you wrote about that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that long putter got banned. There was no movement against that until Ernie Els and Adam Scott in the Open in Peter's backyard. And that really
they started winning.
Single-handedly rammed that down everybody's throat and all of amateur golf's throat. And I'm still waiting for that rule to get revisited, but I don't know if it will.
It should. It should.
Be revisited. I agree with you. I think that was based on personal dislike of the long putter by a couple of people. And most people as they get older either have a bad back or a bad hip or something. Nothing else that allows them to stay in the game.
And they passed that rule when golf was in serious decline.
Right.
Kind of circling the drain, to be honest. And great idea. Let's kick more people out of, send them away from playing by the rules, which they claim are so important. And then all they do is force people. Well, a lot of guys, I'm not giving up my long putter. They just keep playing. They just don't play any official events. So
I'll tell you a quick story. I'll tell you a quick story about Peter Dawson that you might not believe. Peter Dawson and David Rickman and I met in Fife, Scotland in 2006. When they were very near changing the rule 14.3b, which is the no allowing electronic measuring devices. So in the conversation, I'm sitting there at the Royal and Ancient, and I'm like a fish out of water. But the two of them are chatting with me, and they said, "Tell me," I said, it's not that big a change, and people enjoy it, having the advantage and all of that. And I said, it's like scrambles, And Rickman turns to Dawson and says, "Have you ever played a scramble?" And Dawson says, "No, have you?" And Rickman says, "No, I haven't, but my daughter's quite a good player, and she went and participated in a scramble, and she said it was great fun." Now, here's two of the most powerful people in the world of golf, and neither one of them has ever played a scramble event. So that was 2006.
What do you think about the World Handicap thing they created, and they just came up with some revisions? I can tell you, Dean Knuth, the Pope of Slope, was beside himself about the flaws with this program. It's pretty deep math. I can't get into it, but what did you think about it, and what do you think about this latest? They're tweaking it already.
Yeah. Do you know about the playing conditions calculation? PCC. I bet you don't.
I don't know how it works. No.
I'll tell you what I think. I think that there's a better way to do it, and I wrote about this for measuring players and ranking players and all that. And it would take too long to go through it here, but basically you use the course rating of the golf course, and you use the scores that the people shot that day. And there's going to be a difference between the course rating and what they shot. And that number is, you add them up at the end of the year, and that's where that player falls in the world. But you have to have actual numbers. You can't have arbitrary measurements. And anything that has to do with people saying, "Oh, that's a deep bunker, I'm going to say this slope is harder," or you know, that the green doesn't have anything around it, the approach is way too easy. It's all subjective, and you have to get the subjectivity out of a measurement. You can't be measuring arbitrary thinking.
You are right, Kathy. And they 99% of the golfers don't even know about that calculation, and it's done automatically. So if everybody breaks 80 on one particular Saturday, they essentially throw the scores out. Now, it's all in an effort for equity, but I think we got bigger fish to fry than that, like the long putters. And I wish they would revisit that one, because that brought a lot of old guys kind of back into the game.
Well, they made a mistake there. They made a mistake there, and they know it, and they're not going to go back and have everybody say it's about time you unmistaked that.
Yeah, a lot of the World Handicap thing was because they play Stableford in Australia and some other companies, and somehow those people got the ear of the guys at the R&A, and the whole world had to change to accommodate 5% of the world's golfers. But the playing condition thing, I mean, if it's blowing 40 miles an hour, obviously anybody who plays on that day on that course, you're going to shoot a higher score. Now, what kind of complicated calculations are you going to come up with? Or, hey, it rained a lot, everything was wet and sloppy. There's no math computation.
That's why you can only do it based on score, and
you can just base it on the score. But what if what if the wind quits at 1 o'clock?
And the wind quits at 1 o'clock. You're screwed.
Right. That's why you shouldn't do the calculation, because the weather changes during the course of the day. You know, like the Open at Muirfield, where the year Tiger Woods was going to win the Grand Slam, and on Saturday he goes up, and this incredible storm comes up an hour before his tee time and quits.
Shoots 81 or something, didn't he?
Yeah, he shot 81, and it blew him out of the tournament. Ernie Els said, "Wow, that's the first time anything ever went against Tiger."
Yeah, that was it.
Now, one of your other ideas, and it may not be yours alone, but I kind of looked at some of the other things you had done before talking here, and Gary and I talked about it a little bit the other day, is the idea of a bigger hole. And
Kathy, this is going to be my hill to die on.
Yes. I told her, it's like, you just opened a can of worms here.
I refer to it, Kathy, as Mission Impossible. I'm going to give it a try, because the evidence is overwhelming. I'll give you some of the math. Okay. If you take a typical a golf hole, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 million square inches of playing area. If you multiply that times 18 holes, it comes out to be 144 million square inches of playing field. And if you do the math on the 18 4-inch cups, it's 255 square inches. So you've got $144 million playing field, or million square inch playing field with a target that's 255 square inches. That's outrageous. Nobody, and there's no logic to it. It's just the way we've always done it.
Yeah, it's just the way it is. And somehow I remember Jack Nicklaus having a round of golf or a tournament or something with bigger holes, but I thought they were like a foot.
No, I'll tell you what, I was involved in that. I was a member of Muirfield Village, Jack's place over there, and yeah. I had designed a rubber bigger than the hole. It was more like a 7-inch kind of a device. Not terribly successful, but I went ahead and tried to get a patent on it. I actually did get a patent, and it wasn't a commercial success. But Jack asked for them to put, what he did is he rerouted the 18 holes at Muirfield Village to be 12 holes, because the guys who started that project with him are all like 90, and they couldn't play golf anymore. So he made this little short course, and that's probably been 5 or 6 or 7 years ago when he did that. But it was a big success. Everybody laughed. What was the problem? You know, it was for fun.
Well, so tell people how big the big cup, how big is it, and how much of a difference does it make? Because the average person hasn't seen your product.
No. Well, what I'm working on right now, the above ground plastic big cups really were not successful, and so I have switched back to nothing more than a aluminum cup that is now 6 inches instead of 4 1/4. Now, we've done testing on it. We used the tool, we cut the hole, and if you make it bigger than 6 inches, it starts to fall apart. You might remember, guys, when TaylorMade and Mark King did a little deal where they put a 15-inch hole. Now, it was crazy, but it was way up there, and that wasn't successful. But I would argue, and Mark's a good Wisconsin guy, but I think he made a big mistake there. He overplayed it. If he'd have moved it from 4 to 6, it would have been because everybody likes 6 inches versus 4, and it's not that dramatically different.
This is a hair over 6 inches.
Yep.
And here's like the size of my hand.
Mm-hmm.
4 1/4, did we say?
4 1/4, right.
4 1/4 is, I have to get this to the 4 1/4 is where the right here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only difference we're talking about. But I think for amateurs and beginners, I just think it's a brilliant idea. Gary would never do it because he's too good a golfer, really. Well, you wouldn't use it on the PGA Tour, but there are a lot of people on the PGA Tour who wish you would.
Yeah, let me give you an analogy on that, okay?
Let's just stop and ask ourselves, what would Peter Dawson say? And then
there would be on fire.
That kills it right there. But
yeah, we would. I think about this. If you where was I going? The 4 1/4 inch holes. Okay, you said Gary might not play those. Well, yeah. If all of a sudden every 4-footer was a 2-footer, okay, he would value that. Everybody plays a little faster, but the best analogy is tee it forward, which I personally think has been one of the most positive things in 30 years in golf. And once guys move from the blue tees to the white tees, I'm a single-digit handicap who's really not barely. I'm hanging on like you can't believe to be 9 or 10, right around there. But for 30 years, we played the blue tees. Now we moved up. There is nobody going back. Once you move up, you're up. And I don't care if you're talking about elite players, good players like Gary, you move up, it's more fun. I argue that if you can't hit a par 4 with 2 woods, it ain't a par 4. So, that kind of thing. Yeah. So people are moving up.
I told Kathy, I think it's a great idea. I don't think it's got any chance of acceptance. You've seen You've seen how hard it was to get anybody to move up to a forward tee. Who moved up? Yet you and I, because we got old. The 25 and 30-year-old guys, they don't even want to hear about it. And we've both seen guys their whole lives who are 15 handicappers. They insist on playing the tips because they want to see the whole course.
That's okay.
Great. So there's this disconnect in golf where people don't match their skill level with what their playing conditions, and they're not going to accept a big cup. But you just need some courses, country club. Say, this is what we're doing. Here are the cups. If you don't like it, then go join Curry Park.
That is exactly the only number. I would argue.
You could do it on a day. You could do
absolutely. There's thousands of big cup days. There's a lot of people that have been doing this, going rogue for a number of years. It's not a brand new concept. But what I believe is that once that people go, they're not going to go back. And here's what you're going to get. All you'll get. You're going to get faster play. You're going to get lower scores, and you're going to get more fun. Okay. There's some other things that would happen with the bigger cup. You would never take the flag stick out. That will never die. The good players, like Gary says, no, I got to have that in there. Okay. For the look. But once you have a 6-inch hole, the ball bouncing out or hitting the flag stick is no issue. Okay. So there.
You want to be pissed off, miss an 8-footer to a big cup.
Oh,
it's the same old feeling.
Oh, hey, you know what, Gary?
I want to
the bad putters. Hey, let me tell you what we know for certain. The bad putters are still going to be bad, and the good putters are still going to be good. But everybody,
it's going to make the marginal putters a lot better.
Absolutely. What it will really do is probably eliminate one of golf's great tragedies, the 3-putt. Lots of balls that roll by, you've got 9 feet for birdie and you knock it by 4 feet. That's that is kind of the most discouraging thing in all of golf. By the way, you mentioned the long putters and the belly putters. I believe that they came into play because greens are so fast. Okay, the hole is small and the greens are fast. Greens have gone from 7 to 12 or 13 in 30 years on the stimp meter. That's an enormous difference. And I tell you what, anybody, I don't care if you're Steve Stricker, nobody likes 3.5 feet on a 12 green downhill. You just don't.
With the bigger cup, you at least got to, with the bigger cup, your gimme range is going to get bigger. But Rob, you need to organize like National Women's Golf Day. You need National Big Cup Golf Day. You need to be a nationwide thing on a specific day, promote it, and get clubs, a number of clubs, get them the materials they need to cut the big cups. And get.
I've got them.
It sounds simple, but it's not. But this needs to be a holiday.
Yeah, and it's being against the rules has not been a problem for me with my other projects. So, so I guess I can just go rogue. And here's what'll happen. There's 12-hole golf courses that have got little developments of homes around them. There's one in Madison, Wisconsin now, real nice or whatever. That kind of a place. They're not competitors. It's not, it's a 12-hole golf course. As a matter of fact, it's 13 holes. Jerry Kelly did it with some friends where they built this 13 and then built houses, real nice houses around it. Great deal. But that would be the perfect spot to have a bigger cup. Okay. And you know what's interesting about numbers that don't change? The only number that has not changed in golf is the hole size.
Yeah.
I mean, the guys are driving it 50 yards farther than 30 years ago. Every number as well. I'm sure the club sandwich is still 95 cents, like when you joined the club, right? No, it's $7. So everything changes except that one, and it's such an important thing. The end of it. It gave the hole so small it invented the gimme. Because nobody likes to face those.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who decided that the hole was going to be the size that it is.
I can tell you, I know a little of the history of it. In Scotland, they had a drain pipe. This is not really that romantic, but it was actually a plumber's drain pipe. We know what runs through there. And he cut the hole. And interesting thing, in the late 1890s, for about 8 or 10 years, they did allow guys to use a 6-inch cup. And then when the squire, what's his name?
Saracen.
Saracen, he was an advocate of a 6-inch hole or 8-inch hole, and that was got in the 20s. And so there were, and there was who else had somebody else important has been about. It was Ben Hogan. Ben Hogan was not a great putter and always felt it was kind of an unfair game, the putting part of it. So Hogan.
I bet Snead would have liked it too.
Well, there's people who have liked it.
I don't know if you said it wasn't romantic, Rob. A Scotsman laying pipe. That sounds pretty. That sounds
well, no, I hadn't thought of it that way.
Oh, pizza delivery. What?
Well, it will be. I don't know what they'll put on my tombstone if I pull it off, but I guarantee you I will work on it for the next 10 years. I've been working on it for a couple of years already, and these things, as they start to catch on, people will do, golf courses will do what the guy down the street's doing. Now, they can talk about the USGA rules and all that stuff, but and there's some guys who will cut 2 holes on each green and say, "Oh, play to either one you want." But I say
that would be a good solution.
It would be a solution. I think you just say that's what we do here. And by the way, how about this for handicaps? It's real simple. Gary shoots 80 adjusted gross today. He subtracts 2 and turns in 78. Why? Because I said so. Because that's what it's just like when it starts thunder and lightning and you're on the 15th hole. You predict what you did on 16, 17, 18 in the interest of turning in the score. That's what they tell you to do. Yeah. So what we do is I'm going to play the big cup. We subtract 2 from my adjusted gross and move on.
Yeah, can you believe the purveyors of the game? The rules are sacred, and when you get rained out the last couple of holes, or your match is over, you're playing a match. You're supposed to make up what you would have done on the last 3 holes.
I didn't know that.
And you post the score. Like
that's ridiculous.
That is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. And they get all worked up about that. You mentioned Dean Knuth. An allowable par 4 is 251 yards to 450. Okay, so there's 200 yards difference in a par 4. So that's acceptable. I mean, they're both par 4s. One of them is just longer than the other, and it's got a different calculation on your handicap. But if you turned around and looked at this and said, why wouldn't there be a range of 4.5 or no bigger than 6? We just say it's no bigger than 6, and some clubs won't even go to it. You know what will happen, Gary? They'd all go to it. I'm telling you, it'd be in a New York minute. They would go to it for regular recreational play, I think. But
I think you need to get a course to do that. And then you need to go out and play that and write about it and see what the difference is and get reaction, because it's not going to be, you're not going to have people going, one thing golfers never say is, I didn't like that course. I shot too low. We played too fast. Nobody says that.
Never happened. You are correct.
4 more foursomes around every day.
Yeah. Well, faster play, unquestionably faster play. And if it really did knock a 2 or 3 shots, the difference for me between if I shoot 81 or 78, it's the difference between night and day for me. I've had 81 a lot, and I have 78 rarely. And but it just is really adding to the game, and it's faster play, and it's more fun, and people will quickly get used to it, just like they're doing with Tee It Forward. That notion about playing the whole golf course, that's going to be even with the young guys. They like to hit it a long way, but everybody likes to make more putts and to not face 2 or 3 footers for downhill.
I got a good tough question for you here.
Yeah.
Tell us the single most memorable shot you ever hit in golf in your life? And it can be memorable for any reason, good or bad. One shot.
One shot. Okay. One shot. I made a hole-in-one at the 4th hole at Muirfield Village about 10 years ago. It was 199 yards, and I hit a 5-wood on number 4 at Muirfield Village. And I remember it like it was yesterday because after thousands of rounds of golf, I have 2 hole-in-ones.
Was that a stroke hole? Did you get a net zero?
You know what? There are no zeros. You know that, Gary. That's one of their rules.
That's not how the guys I play with play.
No, you're right.
Now, Rob, if someone wants to get more information, either on your pin flags or on your big cup,
Yeah.
Do you have a website that they can go to? Or
I do. It's called golfsolutions.com.
Okay.
I really am not. It's a work in progress. I've got to do this. In other words, the public. I hope somebody will call me, and I would be glad. I'm easy to find. I'm all over all the different places where you could looking for me on the internet or whatever. But I'd be glad to talk to anybody that's interested in it. But I think. But here's one other thought about the Big Cup. I could convert for less than $1,500 a golf course completely. In other words, you buy 18 cups, they're about $35 each. I got a distributor for it already. So the cups, then the tool that you cut with is about $350. You add it up, it's $1,200 or so. I can change a golf course. Can you imagine how from the 4 1/4 to 6 inch for Monday through Friday? Or something like that. Maybe on the weekends they go back to the other cup because they've already got them. Could put it in just for one tournament, one member guest, that kind of stuff.
Put it in for beginners, put it in for kids, put it in for just one day a week and let people play it. And get some experience. I mean,
Kathy, once they do it a couple of times, they're not going back. I'm telling you.
Well, they may not go back, but they have to do it sometime in order to experience it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, Rob, I think you can look forward to getting a phone call from Peter Dawson any day now.
Peter, I will tell you one line that my wife just howled about. Peter Dawson in Golf Digest was asked in an interview if he knew who I was when I was doing the LaserLink thing. And he said, "Oh, yes, I find him difficult to avoid."
I thought you were just going to put a period after the word difficult. I find it
difficult to avoid. But actually, Peter's been nice to me.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Guy. He's very likable, but he's set in his ways.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you very much for being our guest. We don't want to take too much of your time, and we know about how much information we can pack into a show before the editing program explodes, and we're about there.
I hear you. Well, thank you, Kathy. And Vans, I appreciate it. He and I go back. He's got a good Wisconsin connection.
I know, but how is it that you and I have never played golf together? We have to fix that, Rob.
We have to fix that.
We have to fix it. We will do exactly that. We'll fix it.
All right. I'll see you in Wisconsin one of these days.